What up, my YouTube family? This is P9 with another museum walk, and I'm getting ready to do a museum walk in the Frazier History Museum. Frazier History Museum is the largest museum in the state of Kentucky. It displays history throughout the state, and their slogan is "Where the world meets Kentucky." And they also have city tours. They have via the trolleys. So I'm about to go in here and get some content, so stay tuned. It's going to be a dope video. I'm over here in the entryway, and I was immediately enthralled by this really nice model of this aircraft carrier, or this battleship I should say. It's a battleship called the USS Louisville. This model was made by Ray Arthur in 1960. So it's really nice craft work right here of this battleship. And then they have this thing right here. First African American to see the Pacific Ocean, explore the Lewis and Clark experience, everything Kentucky in 35 minutes. So they have different displays and historical figures. So we about to go check them out. Y'all check this out, man. Right here in the lobby, they have a museum gift shop. It's pretty cool. Museum gift shop has different souvenirs and things of that nature for Kentucky. They even have, looks like, a bunch of different whiskey bottles and bourbon and things of that nature. They even got one right here with Abe Lincoln on the front. Yeah, that's pretty dope. It's pretty dope. And they also have a bunch of shirts and things of that nature. But we about to start walking right here in the Frazier History Museum, the first floor. Tons of history. We're gonna start with this right here, the Corvette. This is the C1 generation Corvette right here. And there is a museum right here in the state of Kentucky in Bowling Green, which is a couple of hours away from Louisville. They have a National Corvette Museum, which opened in 1994 in Bowling Green, which is located also a quarter mile away from the Bowling Green assembly plant, where Corvettes have been made since 1981. So the city fought hard to bring the museum to Kentucky. And as you can see, this is one of the displays that is from the Corvette Museum. So they also have this interactive screen right here. You can scroll through and get the histories of the different generations of Corvettes. It's really dope. And this is the second generation right here. And this is the first generation Corvette. So they paved the way for vets like this right here. So really nice, really nice. I like this little sign that they have up here. This neon lit sign says "Cool Kentucky." And you also have this display right here of Henry French Henry, or Heather French Henry, and she was raised in Augusta, Kentucky. Father was a Wounded War veteran, so she won the Miss America pageant in 2000. So she is a Kentucky native. Shout out to her. Flame Run. Owensboro native and glass artist Brooke Forrest White founded the Flame Run in 2004. And this basically is a glass blowing studio, which was originally located in the Nulu neighborhood, but moved to the Glassworks building downtown in 2012. So glass blowing is a really big thing, apparently here in Kentucky. And before opening the Flame Run, Brooke Forrest White attended Center College in Danville, Kentucky, where he studied glass blowing under internationally renowned glass artist Stephen Rolfe Powell. And Powell is known as the godfather of Kentucky glass because of the number of students and assistants whose lives he touched. So yeah, that's Mr. Forrest White doing glass blowing. So it's really cool displays, and we're only on the first floor. We're only on the first floor. And this looks like a this is a rowboat. Tori Merton McClure was born in Brooksville, Florida in 1963 and moved with her grandmother in Louisville, Kentucky at the age of 15. So basically she studied at the Smith College, where she earned a bachelor's degree in psychology, but ultimately she ended up going around and she also got a JD from the University of Louisville School of Law, 1995, and a Master of Fine Arts in Writing from Spalding University. And she ultimately wound up traveling around the world skiing and participating in outdoor activities. She was the first woman and first American to ski the geographic South Pole, and in 1999, the first woman and first American to row solo across the Atlantic Ocean. Wow, what an accomplishment. And this is on display, the boat that she used. So shout out to Tori Merton. Here's some images of her right here. It's really dope, really dope. And this is also a map that shows her journey on her rowing expedition. First attempt from North America all the way to the North Pole, and over here second attempt from the Caribbean all the way to the Canary Islands west of Africa. Really dope, really dope. And they also have this little interactive thing right here where you could check out the 120 cool Kentucky counties. So 120 counties here in Kentucky. You can literally just tap on whichever county that you want, and then on the side they pull out the county. They tell you where it's founded by, who it was named for, and also what covers these counties. So this is really cool. Clark County, Shelby County, so they give extensive history on each one of these. So this is really cool. Civil rights leader Whitney Young Jr.
Alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Roy Williams, and John Lewis.
He campaigned or marched alongside Martin Luther King Jr. during the Civil Rights Movement. That's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. But yes, you guys get the idea. Click on the county, and then the little preview comes up right here. So yeah, man, I could spend all day in this thing right here. I'm a huge history buff, so this is a nice little display right here as well. And check this out. This is just some ideas of the explorers and the enslaved. Here you have York. York was an enslaved man in the service of William Clark and was the only African American on the Lewis and Clark expedition. York served as a vital member of the party, where he hunted, fished, and performed other necessary duties. York was one of the only members that was able to swim, as well respected by the other men. York was well respected by the native tribes, and at the party encountered, he was the first African American man that many of the tribes had seen, and they were fascinated by his size, strength, and darkness of his skin. 10 years after the expedition, Clark freed York, and he worked in freighting in Tennessee and Kentucky until he died of cholera in 1932. So this sculpture right here was done by Ed Hamilton and this is York right there. interesting story of York and William Clark, of course. One half of the, William Clark and Lewis expedition. And Clark was born in Virginia in 1770. And he was also part of the American Revolution. His family relocated to Kentucky, and he joined his older brother George Rogers Clark, where they settled at Mulberry Hill, located along Beargrass Creek, and what is known as George Rogers Clark Park. So William Clark was also a huge part of Kentucky history. And here's just some exhibits right here. This is a skull of Daniel Boone, transferred from Missouri to Kentucky. Squire Boone. If you're wondering whether Squire Boone is any relation to Daniel, you're correct. The younger brother of pioneer Daniel Boone, Squire was an important longhorner and frontiersman in his own right. And there's a sculpture or a marker right here of Squire Boone, and also a portrait of Squire Boone right here. So this Daniel Boone right here, another very big part of history as it pertains to Kentucky. He moved here along with his family and 50 others, where they settled here in Kentucky, and they grew up right here on the frontier. So there's some info right there, Daniel Boone. And also another slave that they have information on is Dolly, who was enslaved by Richard Calloway and was one of two women who were part of an expedition led by Daniel Boone in 1775. The expedition led to the construction of Fort Boonesborough, the capital of the Transylvania County or colony. Dolly was responsible for preparing meals, tending the fires, scraping fresh hides, and preparing pack animals. And she also, that same year, gave birth to the first child born at the fort, presumably the child of Calloway. Her son, Frederick, was sold to another explorer, Nathaniel Hart. Dolly lived into her 80s, and though there is no evidence that she was freed. So I guess they don't have an image of Dolly. That's interesting. Yeah. And that's the thing. A lot of these slaves don't have any documented images of them. And this is a portrait of George Rogers Clark, attributed to the John Wesley Jarvis, who apparently did the portrait. And yeah, this is more information of George Rogers Clark, William Clark's older brother. He also took part on that expedition. And this is oil on canvas painting of Simon Kenton, who was born in 1755 in Virginia, and he fled to the wilderness of West Virginia, Kentucky, and Ohio after thinking that he had killed a man in a jealous rage over the love of a woman. Kenton served as a scout against the Shawnee Indians and saved the life of his friend Daniel Boone during a clash with Native Americans at Boonesborough. So yeah, Simon Kenton also part of that expedition. And there's another information about an enslaved man by the name of Caesar, who was a formerly enslaved man that was adopted by members of the Shawnee Nation after they killed his owners. While he lived at the Shawnee at the Chillicothe, Caesar met Simon Kenton, who had been captured while trying to steal horses. Kenton suffered weeks of torture and abuse at the hands of Shawnee, including being forced to run the gauntlet a quarter-mile past Shawnee armed with sticks and clubs. While pretending to torture Kenton, Caesar gave the explorer directions to help him escape, directing him to follow Caesar's Creek to the Miami River. So just a many information pertaining to slavery and exploration during that time period of the 18th century. And this just gives you information on some geographical features here in Kentucky. You have the Falls of the Ohio. This site is the only natural barrier along the Ohio River. It has many fossils from millions of years ago, limestone ridges, and generations of travelers and explorers. Meriwether Lewis and William Clark famously met here at the Falls of Ohio before their expedition. George Rogers Clark, founder of the city, settled not far from the falls in his later life. And you also have Black Mountain, which is the highest peak in the state of Kentucky, with a summit of 4,145 feet above sea level, and it's about 500 feet taller than any other mountain in Kentucky. Black Mountain is located near Lynch, Kentucky, one of the largest coal mining towns in the nation. The summit is owned by a coal company, Penn Virginia Resources, but public access is allowed. And it's one of the few sites in Kentucky that has a northern hardwood forest at high elevations, and several rare plants and animals are found on the mountain, including black bears, red elderberries, and hobblebush. So this is really cool information pertaining to the natural features of Kentucky. You also have bluegrass. The species of grass known as Kentucky bluegrass is native to Europe. It has grown in the cooler, humid parts of the U.S. ever since the European settlers of the New World brought its seeds to North America. When the plant grows to its natural height, the head of the grass becomes a dark blue-green, giving bluegrass its name. The central region of Kentucky is known for its fertile soil and green pastures, making the inner bluegrass region surrounding Lexington the perfect place for over 100 horse farms. So that grass is really good for fertilizing the farms. Right here in the state of Kentucky, bluegrass. And here are the several indigenous people who were indigenous to the land that we now call Kentucky. You have the Cherokee East, you have the Chickasaws, you have the Miamis. The Miamis generally occupied the areas around the Ohio River. And the Shawnee, they occupied the majority of the state. You have the Quapaw that occupied this small section of western Kentucky. And you have in southeastern Kentucky, you have the So-Yahos or the Yuchi tribe. And you also had the Lakota and Dakota tribe. I didn't know they occupied any land here in Kentucky, but apparently they did in the southwestern tip of the state. And you have the Osage tribe that occupy most of northern Kentucky. So really interesting. And you have the Louisville Zoo and the Red River Gorge and Big Bone Lick State Park, one of the many natural sites here in the state of Kentucky. The Louisville Zoo will gain popularity during the tenure of Mayor Charles Farnsley, a champion of arts and culture in the city. And the Louisville Zoo opened in 1969 on 134 acres of land on the Trevelyan Way. So they host over 50 endangered species. And the Red River Gorge is part of the canyon system on the Red River that lies within the National Forest, Daniel Boone National Forest in east central Kentucky. So you have sandstone cliffs, rock shelters, and natural bridges. And they also have the nearby Natural Bridge State Park, which is one of the largest natural bridges in the area. So for all my outdoor enthusiasts, you got the Red River Gorge right here in the state. And also the Big Bone Lick State Park, located at a salt lick that was used by mammoths and other historic and prehistoric animals. The areas near the salt springs were soft and marshy, causing many animals to get stuck and unable to escape. So lots of cool history there so far, huh? And we're still on the first floor. And here's some more historic information. You have the Belle of Louisville riverboat. It's a paddle wheel riverboat built in 1914. The Belle celebrated its 100th birthday in 2014. So very important in the emergence of the Mississippi and Ohio rivers, which it spent many of its days taking trips on. And you have Thomas Edison right here. You know, Thomas Edison, you know, is the one who's credited with the light bulb and whatnot. He's credited with the light bulb, but that is very basically a debatable topic, because whether or not he was the inventor of the light bulb, but nevertheless, there goes Thomas Edison. And the telegraph, and he found work in the Louisville and Western Union office at 2nd and Main Street. The building where he is believed to have lived is in the Butchertown neighborhood. It's now the Edison House Museum. And it's John Banvert. John Banvert was the painter who painted the longest painting in the world. On a 1,300-foot long creation was a panoramic view of his journey down the Mississippi River. He mounted the rolled up painting to mechanized pedestals on his own design. So that's John Banvert right there. And there goes Edwin Hubble. He lived and settled in Shelbyville, Kentucky. And he was originally from Chicago. So he was basically someone who coached basketball and taught mathematics at New Albany High School, which is across the river in Indiana. So shout out to those historical figures. And here's also a model of the Belle of Louisville. This looks really nice. And there's also a sketch of it. This is the dress worn by Miss Heather French Henry, who again married Lieutenant Governor Steve Henry back in 2000. That was Miss America Heather French Henry. That's the dress wore by her. And this is the tux that was wore by Mr. Steve Henry, the Lieutenant Governor, who married Miss America. So obviously, they're very historical fixtures here in Louisville and the state of Kentucky as a whole. And here's a sculpture of what looks like a slave right here, and the slave owner right here, or the overseer. Here's some more exhibits over here. Now these came from the 21C Museum hotels. This is the red and blue Lexington Penguins. Louisville Orchestra poster, 1983, designed by Julius Friedman, part of the Frazier, Kentucky History Museum collection. And there's a couple more pictures, both of them designed by Julius Friedman. This one is of fresh paint. Looks like they came out of eggs. And there goes Julius Friedman right here. He was born and raised here in Kentucky, received a degree in graphic design from the University of Louisville. And he was an internationally known and award-winning graphic designer, photographer, artist, and furniture designer and videographer. So a man of many talents, very artistic. He was known for the posters he created for art organizations and nonprofits like the Louisville Ballet and the Louisville Orchestra. These posters were created and before digital manipulation was possible, and Friedman had to physically create many of the striking images he was recognized for. So he created sculptural works until he passed away in 2017. So RIP and shout out to Julius Friedman. And here's just some information right here. You have the 21C Museum Hotel, which was began in 2006 by Louisville philanthropists and art collectors Lori Lee Brown and Steve Wilson. And you have the KMAC Museum, which was founded in 1981 as the Kentucky Art and Craft Foundation. And they began to build a collection of American folk art centered around Kentucky and its region. So that's the KMAC building right there. That's the 21C Museum Hotel, which is actually located on the same street as Frazier Art Museum. And you have the Speed Art Museum. This was known as the J.B. Speed Memorial Museum originally. The Speed Art Museum was founded in 1927 by Hattie Bishop Speed as a memorial to her husband James Breckenridge Speed. The Speed houses major collections including a complete English Renaissance room donated by Dr. Satterwhite. So that's the Speed Museum right there, which is actually around the campus of the University of Louisville. And here's a bunch of miniature collections of the generally of the set, the what you call these, the Germans, the French soldiers, as you can see. So I'm assuming a lot of these were from the American Revolutionary era. This is a World War II submarine right here. So a lot of cool miniatures for people that like to collect these type of things. Another Julius Friedman piece of art right here. It's called the Louisville Ballet. The Louisville Ballet, founded in 1952. The Kentucky Shakespeare, the Kentucky Opera, and the Actors Theater. So these are just a few of the artistic endeavors right here in the city of Louisville. And here's a quilt right here. It's a really nicely done quilt. It's called Hey You. And the stitch work was by Sunshine Joe Mallard, which was quilted on long arm machine by Angelique Shaw. And it's called Hey You. And it was actually in 2024 when this was created. And there goes Sunshine Joe Mallard right here. It's also known as Sunshine Joe, a Kentucky quilter. Mallard learned sewing from his great-great-grandmother. As her eyesight worsened, Mallard threaded her needles. Mallard had made stitched pieces about the world events for over 50 years. His tapestry quilts are handmade and thousands of stitches and knots. The large quilts typically take 4 to 5 years to complete. Mallard also enjoys teaching. He is often found in community centers, homeless shelters, libraries, and universities. Sunshine Joe's most famous quilts include this Obama tie quilt and an embroidered denim jacket he presented to former President Jimmy Carter. So the shout out to Sunshine Joe Mallard. This is really gorgeous right here. All these different colors. I know it took him a good minute to stitch this up, but really nice work. It's nothing like handcrafted pieces of art. Casey Jones, Anna Matt Clark, A.B. Happy Chandler, Nanita Daisley, Ann Braden, King Solomon, and Willa Brown Chappell. Wow. The Hall of Unsung Kentuckians. So it's another one of those interactive displays they have here. Monetta Sleet Jr., born in Owensboro, Kentucky, 1926. Graduated cum laude from Kentucky State College and received a master's degree in journalism from NYU. He captured many photos of African American celebrities and civil rights leaders, including MLK Jr., whom he photographed for 13 years. Wow. After King's death, Coretta Scott King found out that no black photographers had been assigned to cover her husband's funeral service. She demanded that Sleet be a part of the press pool, threatening to bar all photographers from the service if he was not there. Wow, Coretta Scott King wasn't playing. But yeah, that's Monetta Sleet Jr. And you can go to these different individuals and you can get more insight on them, more information. Isaac Scott Hathaway, born in Lexington, Kentucky. So he was also a sculptor. He helped to establish the Department of Ceramics at Tuskegee Institute, the first African American to design a U.S. coin. He designed 2 coins for the mint in his lifetime. A Booker T. Washington Memorial $50 featuring the face of Booker T. Washington and a George Washington Carver / Booker T. Washington commemorative $50 featuring George Washington Carver. So that again is Isaac Hathaway. So they have their actual images right here. It goes John Harlan, Thomas Hunt Morgan, and you can go over here and just click on those images to get more insight on them. So these are the Hall of Unsung Kentuckians, many of whom we probably never heard of before. And there's more of them over here too. So many of them. Carl Brashear of the U.S. Navy, Story Musgrave, John Gregg Feet, Willie Snow, Enid Yardell, Diane Fossey, Elijah P. Mars, St. Elmo Brady, Wendy Whelan, Helen Thomas, John Scopes, Philip Sharp, Jane Todd Crawford, and an unnamed individual right here. But it looks like his name was actually Free Frank McWhirter, who was born in Union County, South Carolina, to an enslaved woman named Judah and her owner, George McWhirter. So Frank was brought to Frontier, Kentucky, where he worked with his father and master and was permitted to accept outside work for profit. So that's a lot of interesting history right here. And there's even more right here. There goes Garrett Morgan. Garrett Morgan, credited for the gas mask, inventing the safety hood and early gas mask, as well as the patent for the first 3-position traffic signal, which he later sold to GE, General Electric, for $40,000. So that's Garrett Morgan. Albert Fink, who worked on the Louisville and Nashville Railroad, where he designed several significant bridges in Kentucky. One design was the longest iron truss bridge in America. So that's Albert Fink. He also worked with the railroad industry after he designed those bridges. John Roebling designed the bridge connecting Covington, Kentucky and Cincinnati, Ohio, which opened in 1867. The Cincinnati-Covington Suspension Bridge was the longest suspension bridge in the world at the time. This bridge helped Roebling prove that his design for the Brooklyn Bridge would be safe and viable. So it was first the Cincinnati-Covington Bridge, then the Brooklyn Bridge. And the Lincoln patent, Abraham Lincoln, the only U.S. president to have registered a patent. The patent was designed to lift a boat over shoals of obstructions in a river. So lots of cool displays in history. Here's the picture of the patent of Garrett Morgan's traffic signal, as you can see right here. This was the original patent from 1923, inventor Garrett Morgan. And this is the attorney who granted him the patent. Wow, it's like so much history. Charles Lee Cook, right here. George and Mildred McCoy. So this is the father of Elijah McCoy, or they're the parents of Elijah McCoy. And George and Mildred were two of the many black Kentuckians who helped themselves and others escaped during the Underground Railroad. The couple and fled Louisville in 1830s to settle in Canada and then Michigan. And George hid his enslaved freedom seekers in his false bottom wagon underneath loads of cigars, assisting them on the journey. So Mildred and George, they basically played a huge part in assisting slaves escape through the Underground Railroad. But this is the guy, Jim Bowie, who is credited for being named after the Bowie knife. Bowie would eventually die alongside Davy Crockett at the Battle of Alamo. But the giant knife he designed and used that day was forever associated with him. So he used the knife during the famous sandbar fight, which begun as a duel between two other men, but quickly got out of hand. So these are just really more displays right here. There goes the Bowie knife right over here, along with Big Top Smooth Peanut Butter, the original doll baby, who was designed by Martha Nelson Thomas. While attending the Louisville School of Art, she experimented with creating dolls. With input from children, she handmade her doll babies and sold them at a local craft fair. Thomas met Xavier Roberts and the two worked together to sell the doll babies. In 1978, Roberts created his own version and licensed the dolls to Coleco for mass production with the name Cabbage Patch Kids. Thomas sued Roberts and settled the case out of court. Cabbage Patch Kids were so popular that there was a 9-month waiting list, and the dolls sold for $30 to $150. Thomas sold a line of craft supplies that was allow consumers to sew their own dolls, with kits costing about $16 total. Wow, so they actually met. So Thomas met Roberts. Roberts basically created his own, and she sued him. That's crazy, but I understand. You definitely want to protect your intellectual property. Crate label limestone lettuce. And Airheads were actually created right here in Kentucky. Wow, I did not know that. Airheads is one of my favorite candies of all time. They're manufactured by the Pretty Van Mel Company, whose Erlanger location was founded in 1980. And Airheads candy themselves was invented by Steve Bruner in Erlanger, Kentucky. So you also have peanut butter. The J.M. Smucker Company has its roots right here. So Jif peanut butter and all of that, they have their roots right here in the state of Kentucky, more specifically in Lexington. And the Bibb lettuce, who was credited to John Bibb, who was born in Virginia and moved with his family to Kentucky, and a volunteer in the War of 1812. And also chewing gum is credited to John Colgan, who was born right here in Louisville. He opened a drugstore in Louisville where he purchased enough cough syrup and had purchased an entire train car. So that's him right there. Colgan's Taffy was marketed and sold as taffy and chewing gum, and also contained baseball cards. So these are just the many inventions that were invented by Kentuckians. You have the baseball bat, which I presume to be the Louisville Slugger. You have stoves, office chairs, all this type of stuff. And you have the patents and the date of the patent and everything. So many innovative individuals come from the state of Kentucky. We got the motorcycle, the shoe, rubber shoes, all that good stuff. And keep in mind, people, we're only on the first floor. This is Colonel Sanders right here, sculpture of him. Colonel Harlan Sanders, who we know to be the face of Kentucky Fried Chicken, aka KFC. And that's him right here, information of him. He was actually a colonel in the during the Great Depression. And he was asked to run a service station for Shell Oil Company in North Corbin, where they actually have the museum for the KFC. They have it in Corbin, Kentucky. And that's him, Colonel Sanders. So he sold his chicken at Harmon's restaurant in Utah, and it was Harmon who coined the name Kentucky Fried Chicken back in 1952. So Sanders first franchised a secret recipe in 1952. And here's a couple of other important historians right here in Kentucky. Duncan Hines, the cake mix right here, that's him right over there. He made dessert mixes in the dishware line. And here's Nancy Green. Nancy Green, who worked during the enslavement period, and she was hired to portray Aunt Jemima and promote the pancake mix in 1893's World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. And that's her right there. And you also have right here, you have Aunt Jemima on a pancake flour box back in 1917. And this is just some information on the brewing of beer right here in Louisville, which started back in 1808 during the Elisha Applegate Brewery. You have Big Red. The Big Red soft drinks were also designed right here in Louisville. And yeah, Grover C. Thomas. It was created in 1937 by Grover C. Thompson and R.H. Rourke in Waco, Texas. At the time of its invention, Big Red was marketed exclusively in Central and South Texas and in Louisville, Kentucky. Rourke owned the R.C. Bottling Company in Louisville, making Kentucky the first state where one could purchase the soda. I think I tried a Big Red before. They were pretty good. And here's some of the culinary staples right here in Kentucky. You have hot brown, and it was created by Chef Fred Schmidt back in the 1920s. So it's basically a roasted turkey, bacon, and cheesy Marnay sauce. And you have the goetta. Goetta is a meat and grain sausage that was invented by German immigrants in Covington, Kentucky. And you have the Benedictine, a blend of cucumbers and cream cheese, spread on crackers or as a sandwich. And you have the Derby pie, long-standing Kentucky dessert. And it's a staple you can enjoy any time of the year. And it was invented by the Kern family in 1950. The Melrose Inn in Prospect, Kentucky. And you also have the cheeseburger. And the cheeseburger was invented back in Kalen's restaurant in Louisville. Yes, the cheeseburger is a Kentucky invention. I did not know that either. But the legend is that in 1934, Carl and Margaret Kalen were the first to throw cheese on a grilled patty for students at St. Agnes School across the street. Some credit Lionel Sternberger of Pasadena, California as being the famous chef. Others believe the Humpty Dumpty Drive-In Diner in Denver, Colorado trademarked the name in 1935. You might need to start researching at Kalen's to find the answer. So that's one of those debatable topics again of who came up with the cheeseburger. But apparently they say that Carl and Margaret Kalen came up with it. And you have the L81. George Lee Wainscott started a soft drink company in 1902 after seeing a carbonation machine. And he sold fruit-flavored sodas in Winchester, Kentucky before releasing Roxa Cola in 1906. Roxa Cola's success led to a major lawsuit, which Wainscott eventually won. So yes, a lot of lawsuits were filed back then. You know what I'm saying? When it came to inventions and who did what first. But apparently this is like the I guess this is the patent for the L8. This is the L8 bottling company. Here's a stitching of it right there. And here's the marketing for it. This is pretty cool. And they have over here the Brown-Forman Theater. In Western Kentucky, barbecue belt. The Modjeska candies right here. The Burgoo, and the Owensboro barbecue. Burgoo was designed, or the father of Burgoo is credited as Gustav Joubert, who hang in the Burgoo house at the Buffalo Trace Distillery. And this is right here, candy maker Anton Boussat dreamed of creating a signature caramel biscuit, which would be named after actress Helena Modjeska, I think I pronounced that correct. And she captured Louisville's hearts in the 1880s when she performed in the Henrik Ibsen's play A Doll's House. So yeah, Modjeskas, that's what they look like right here. Henry Bain Sauce was one of the first employees at the Pendennis Club in Louisville, Kentucky. So that's where the Henry Bain Sauce started. Bain worked his way up through the club, eventually became its maitre d', serving as the post for several years. So basically there was a club which excluded African Americans, women, and Jewish people unless sponsored by another member until they announced an open policy in 2006. So they've been racist going all the way back to the 1920s. Good grief. 2006? Wow.
They should have a little sandwich board out here.
Crazy.
But they'll be doing it. Yeah, they do. They'll be
Here's another
right about
display for Kentucky Fried Chicken. Where in the world is Colonel Sanders? He is just in a city south of Cairo, Egypt. It was the first ancient capital of ancient Egypt. And yeah, this is really cool displays right here. A German copy of Frank Leslie's illustrated newspaper of the Birthroom Feast, right here.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Elevators over there or over here, folks. So there's the stairwells. Restrooms are for them.
And this is the Bain generator, named after Fairleigh Bain, patented in 1883. And this early generator was installed at the Southern Exposition by the Thomas Edison Company, producing electricity for arc lamps that lit up the exposition at night. And here's information about Fairleigh Bain right here. Descendant of Alexander Bain, a Scottish inventor who was the first to patent the electric clock. Bain moved to Chicago in 1881 to work on his electric lighting system. Yep, so that's him right there. And check out this right here. Look at this long rifle. This is a long gun. This thing is long. It was owned by Jim Porter, who moved to Shippingport, Kentucky with his family when he was an infant. His rapid growth began at the age of 17, sometimes growing as much as an inch a week. Good gosh. Porter reached his full height and weight by the age of 30. He was 7'8" tall and weighed 300 pounds. Porter operated 2 taverns in Louisville, the Lone Star and the Big Gun Tavern. In 2006, Louisville doctors concluded that he likely had acromegaly. I gotta look up that condition. This benign tumor caused presses on the pituitary gland, causing an excessive amount of growth hormones. Good gosh. But that's him right there. No wonder this gun is so long. He had look how big this dude's hand was. This gun was huge. You gotta make this. They had to custom make this. They had to custom make this just for this individual right here. Jim Porter. It's crazy. Madam Glover, internationally renowned fashion designer. She owned one of Louisville's premier custom dressmaking studios from 1881 to 1912. Born Ann Casey, she arrived in Louisville as an Irish immigrant with no prospects. She found work as a seamstress in department stores on 4th Street, catering to Louisville society women. She opened her own studio on Jefferson Street and employed a workforce of mostly Irish women. She was among the first designers to take orders by telephone, and she designed for many celebrities of the day. And again, that's Madam Glover. And this is a sample, embroidery sample of Madam Glover, made by Madam Glover. Some Kentucky famous poets. You have Robert Penn Warren right here, who won the Poet Laureate in 1986. And he was born in Guthrie, Kentucky in 1905. And he was the only writer to win the Pulitzer Prizes for both fiction and poetry. So that's Robert Penn Warren right here. You also have Bell Hooks. Bell Hooks, I highlighted her in my Hopkinsville, Kentucky vlog. And she went by the name of Bell Hooks as her pen name, but she was born Gloria Jean Watkins in Hopkinsville. She received her doctorate from the University of California at Santa Cruz in 1983, and she adopted the name Bell Hooks after her grandmother. It was never capitalized in order to focus on her message. And she wrote about the culture and poetry and known all over the world. She explores the ways of people's identities cross paths or intersect along the lines of gender as well as race, economic status, and other factors. She was also a professor at Berea University, and where she established the Bell Hooks Institute in 2014, and she passed away 2021 at the age of 69, and that's her right there. R.I.P. to Bell Hooks. And you have Frank X. Walker, whose poems are displayed prominently here in this Frazier History Museum. A native of Danville and a graduate of Spalding University's MAF, or Master of Arts program. Walker is best known for his work founding the Appalachia movement, which calls the attention of the diversity of Appalachia, where he also founded the Bluegrass Black Arts Consortium, and he was named the Poet Laureate of Kentucky in 2013. So yeah, so this is Mr. Frank X. Walker. He's still an active poet and educator to this day, and he received honorary doctorates from the University of Kentucky and Transylvania University. One of his poems, The Seed Time and Commonwealth, was written to commemorate UK's 150th anniversary. It is now engraved on a wall at the Student Center of the University of Kentucky. So again, you can see selections of his work on display in the Commonwealth on the second floor. And there you have native son of Louisville, Hunter S. Thompson, who was raised in the Highlands neighborhood. And he basically did a bunch of stream of consciousness style of journalism called Gonzo. And this is him right here. He did novels and articles such as Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and Louisville's Favorite, The Kentucky Derby, and Decadent and Depraved. Cemented his position as a journalistic icon and gained him a cult following. So yep. And here's a collection of books over here. Right here on the first floor. And here's some designs of some corduroy pants that were $1. And this is the Dollar General right here, and a map of Kentucky. Pretty cool, huh? This is also where a lot of these corporations are headquartered. Check this out. So here comes the sports history of Kentucky. This is competitive Kentucky right here. You have Lamar Jackson hoisting the Heisman Trophy that he won in 2016. Now, Lamar Jackson was born in Pompano Beach, Florida in 1997, but moved to Kentucky in 2015 to play football for the Louisville Cardinals. Now, he won the Heisman Trophy in 2016, and he was only 19 at the time. So basically, he won it in his sophomore year, I believe. And this is the Kentucky Colonels, who was a professional basketball team in Louisville. Yes, that's right. Kentucky actually had a pro basketball team once upon a time. Between the 1967 and 1976, the Kentucky Colonels were part of the American Basketball Association. The Colonels won the most league games of any franchise in the league. For the first 3 seasons, the team played at Louisville Gardens and then moved to Freedom Hall. They had 3 star players, Artis Gilmore, Dan Issel, and Louis Dampier, who were all inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. The Kentucky Colonels won the ABA Finals in 1975, but they did not join the National Basketball Association during the ABA-NBA merger in 1976. Along with the ABA, the Colonels disbanded that same year. Wow. So that's one of those teams that didn't make it during the merger of the ABA. And you had Cat Runner, who was born in China and adopted by a couple in Louisville at only 13 months. He is known for participating in winning the HBO 2023 reality competition climbing show, The Climb. So he played basketball as a child also, so he was very active. And that's him right there, Cat Runner. Interesting name. But yeah, there goes the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory. We saw that in the Louisville main vlog. This is the name of the factory, museum, and back, starting as a family woodworking shop in 1856. So this is the museum right here. and it premiered in 1884. Bud Hillerich made Pete Browning a bat that helped break a slump for the megastar. 10 years after Bud's first bat for Pete, he took over the company and patented the Louisville Slugger. And as you can see right there, so famous baseball players such as Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Honus Wagner used the Louisville Slugger, and it was a huge part of their success in the major leagues. So the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory continues to produce bats for MLB players and are available for purchase in their gift shops. And here's different stages of the production of the Louisville Slugger. It was made out of wood, so you got this big old log right here, and it was eventually carved down into what did you see right here, stages 4 and 5. So 1 is a quarter slice of lumber, 2 is a square, 3 is a billet, 4 is a rough out, and 5 is the finished replica of Jackie Robinson's bat. So this is the bat that Jackie Robinson used back in the day. Okay. That's what's up. That's what's up. And they have this height chart. This is Artis Gilmore right here. He played for the San Antonio Spurs back in the day. So I guess he was about 7 feet tall. But he played for the San Antonio Spurs. That's him marketing for the Coca-Cola product right there. Shout out to Artis Gilmore. He also played for the Kentucky Colonels. And as you can see right here, they had the playbook on display from the 1974-75 championship season. And this Kentucky Colonels bag right here. And then you have the different shoes. This is really dope. These are Adidas Pro models right here. And these are all signed by Artis Gilmore. It's pretty nice. And you have some more Kentucky legends, more specifically Louisville. You have Bill Plaschke, who graduated from Ballard High School right here in Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky. And he's been a sports columnist for the LA Times since 1996. And Bill won a Society of Professional Journalists Columnist of the Year and the Pursuit of Justice Award from the California Women's Law Center. So he won the AP National Sports Columnist of the Year 4 times, and in 2024 won the Red Smith Award. So that's Bill Plaschke right here. And the first time I've heard of him was from that show Around the Horn. They used to come on ESPN. This is Mary Meager, who grew up in Louisville with 10 siblings. So she comes from a huge family. At 14, she set a world record in the Pan American Games for the 200-meter butterfly. In 1981, Meager set the world record for both 100 and 200-meter butterfly at the U.S. Swimming National Championships. She also competed in the 1984 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles, where she won gold medals in 100 and 200-meter butterfly races, and for her participation in the women's relay for Team USA. So the Mary T. Meager Aquatic Center in Louisville is named in her honor. Shout out to Mary T. Meager. And Paul Hornung, I actually highlighted him in the opening segment of my Louisville main vlog. But Paul the Golden Boy Hornung was born in Louisville, Kentucky in 1935, where he attended Bishop Joseph Flaggett High School, where he lettered all 4 years in football, basketball, and baseball. At the high school, Hornung played both basketball and football at Notre Dame University. And in '56, he won the Heisman Trophy, becoming the only player to win from a team with a losing record. Good gosh, they were only 2-8. 1956? That's unlike Notre Dame. He was also the first Heisman winner to play professional football. The Green Bay Packers selected Hornung first overall in the 1957 NFL Draft, where he won 4 league championships, including the first Super Bowl in 1967. He was also inducted into both the NCAA and NFL Hall of Fame. And that's Paul Hornung. Looks like he's doing this little pose or whatever. And here's a signed portrait of University of Louisville football star Johnny Unitas, who himself also achieved a large amount of success, a Hall of Fame career in the NFL. And this is a portrait of Paul Hornung and Cheryl Snipes in Flaggett High School in 1951. And Sports Illustrated magazine featuring Paul Hornung back in 1963. And that's him again, Paul Hornung, where he leads the Irish against Oklahoma. So Paul Hornung is a NFL legend and definitely a legend right here in Kentucky. PGA Championship flag for Justin Thomas 2017. Here's another one for Justin Thomas in 2018 or 2022 rather. And that's it. And Justin Thomas, born in Louisville, Kentucky, April 29, 1923, to a family of avid golfers. He picked up his first golf club at the age of 2 as a freshman at the University of Alabama. Thomas was given the 2012 Haskins Award for Best Collegiate Golfer, and his team won the national title in 2013, where he also began playing professionally that same year. He was the PGA Tour Player of the Year for seasons 2016 and 2017, where he took home PGA titles in 2017 and 22, and was named PGA Player of the Year 2017 and 2020. And there goes a photograph of him holding his championship trophies in 2021, Justin Thomas. And this is a painting of the 1980 NCAA collegiate basketball team, the Louisville Cardinals basketball team. That's Denny Crum right there in the middle. And these are the players in their roster of the Louisville Cardinals national title team in 1980. And that's Denny Crum right here, who was born in San Fernando, California in 1937, but was head basketball coach for the University of Louisville from 1971 to 2001. Crum guided the Cardinals to 2 NCAA titles victories in 1980 and 1986, and to 6 Final Four appearances during his career. In 30 seasons, Crum's Cardinals appeared in 23 NCAA tournaments, and in 1993, Crum became the second fastest coach to reach 500 wins, ranking 16th overall in Division I wins. His 1980 championship team was known as the Doctors of Dunk, and in 1994, Crum was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. So shout out to Denny Crum, that's him right there, in that red suit, red jacket. That's really dope. I ain't gonna lie, that's a really nice right there and in the school colors. Now we definitely got to highlight this: the University of Louisville versus the University of Kentucky. This intrastate rivalry. The basketball rivalry between the University of Louisville and University of Kentucky is one of the most intense in college sports. Louisville and Kentucky first played each other in men's basketball in 1913. They stopped in the 1920s until 1983 when they met in the NCAA tournament, a game won by the Cardinals. Since then, the two teams have played each other every year. Kentucky has won 37 out of the 52 times the two teams have met. No shocker there. Kentucky's basketball team is elite. They have been elite for the longest. I mean, University of Louisville, this is just a side note, by the way. University of Louisville is also has had a history of having an elite basketball program, but Kentucky is just unmatched, 52 times, and that 37 out of 52 times Kentucky has beaten Louisville. And in 2001, Louisville hired head coach Rick Pitino, who held the same title at Kentucky for 8 years. This hiring decision fueled and solidified the rivalry. Dang, so Rick Pitino went from Kentucky, the blue and white of Kentucky, to the red and black of the University of Louisville. So I'm pretty sure that did spark that rivalry even more. And there goes some autographed basketball right here of the Louisville 1980 champions. And of course, Denny Crum, the head coach of that squad. And this is also a basketball commemorating head coach Denny Crum's 500th career victory. It's a Rawlings Rab model basketball, and it was on January 7th, 1993, where he accomplished this feat, where the University of Louisville defeated University of South Florida by a score of 98-75. So there goes the red suit jacket for Denny Crum. There goes one of the players' basketball jersey, 35. And here's a signed jersey for the University of Louisville. So basically, the basketball jersey was worn by Sam Furing of the University of Louisville women's basketball team. So she signed it back in 2019. And let's see. And there's just a warm-up suit, or warm-up, I guess one of those jumpsuit warm-up basketball suits right here. And this right here is the University of Louisville NCAA official souvenir magazine. So really nice display right here. Really nice display. And this is the opening ceremony jacket for the Rio Paralympic Games in 2016. And this is for the Paralympics, for those who are, for the paraplegics basically participating in the Olympics. So Oksana Masters, as you can see right here, Ukrainian Olympian. She had several radiation-induced birth defects caused by the Chernobyl disaster. Oksana was abandoned at birth and was adopted at the age of 7 by Gabe Masters. After coming to the U.S., she had both legs amputated and surgery on her hands to modify her outermost fingers to function as thumbs. In 2001, Oksana moved with her mother to Louisville, Kentucky, and she is an 8-time Paralympian between the summer and winter games. She has won 9 gold medals, 7 silver, and 4 bronze. She is the most decorated U.S. Winter Paralympian of all time. And this is a really cool display right here. And that's actually her signature right there on the glass. It's pretty cool.
You know it's a religion here. Everyone plays basketball as a child.
But yeah, this is some more. This is basically a couple of the soccer league teams right here. This is Louisville City FC. Relocating from Orlando in 2015, Louisville City FC became the only pro sport team in Kentucky. And they made it to the USL's Eastern Conference Final in 9 straight seasons. In 2018, Lou City became the first USL team in history to win consecutive champions. And Racing Louisville FC right here. They joined the Women's Soccer League in 2019. They also have a semi-professional hockey team called the Louisville River Frogs. And the Louisville Bats are a AAA affiliate baseball team of the Cincinnati Reds. They play at the Louisville Slugger Field here.
Let me tell you about, again, probably my favorite person in this museum, Oksana Masters.
And check this out.
She was born in 1989.
They have this display of the Kentucky Colonels basketball team right here. This is really cool. Really cool.
Yes, the Chernobyl incident, right? This meant that poor.
You should check out the Adidas. Check out the footwork. Red, white, and blue logo in the center of the court. Really nice. Really nice. Really nice. The garland of roses presented to Giacomo during the Kentucky Derby back in 2005. That's it right here. You have, these are just some of the historic figures associated with the Kentucky Derby. You have Rose Garland right here.
But Fortunately for her story, when
Kentucky Derby, the actual event, which has been running since 1875. Steve Carlton,
was wanting to adopt a child
right here,
first
and
foster
Eddie
child.
and Eddie Arcaro.
In this orphanage in particular.
So they won. These were jockeys who won multiple events during the Kentucky Derby. And here goes Mr. Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr., who we all grown to know as Muhammad Ali. And he began training as a boxer at age 12. He won a gold medal at 18 in the 1960 gold medal Olympics in Rome. And the following month, he became a professional boxer. He remains the only 3-time heavyweight lineal champion. In 1961, at the age of 19, he converted to Islam and changed his name to Muhammad Ali. In 66, Ali refused service during the Vietnam War because of his religious beliefs. And here are some of the historical artifacts associated with Muhammad Ali. And these pink boxing gloves are actually belonging to Stephanie Malone. And this is Stephanie Malone right here, who was born in 1992. She began boxing after visiting a gym at a young age, and later on she ends up, after 3 months of training, won a national tournament in Kansas, and 6 months later Malone became the U.S. national champion. So that's Stephanie Malone right there. And Jim Mitchell was known as the Black Panther, one of the first African Americans in modern era wrestling. Mitchell participated in tours in Europe, the U.S., and Canada, and he eventually settled in Los Angeles, where he became a regular at the Olympic Auditorium. So that's Jim Mitchell right there. And one of his most famous matches came against Gorgeous George. And that's him right here. This is many of his artifacts associated with Mr. Jim Mitchell. There goes, including his boxing shoes. There goes the image of him. There goes him right there again. Really cool display. Really cool display right here in the sports section of the museum. But this concludes the first part of this vlog. So I'm going on to the second and third floor to complete this beautiful vlog right here at the Frazier History Museum. So stay tuned for the next one. Peace.